Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 38 of Be With Me. We're in the tail end of the book of Acts chapter 5. And here's the context. The disciples have been arrested twice, and now a third detention, if you will. They're brought in not by force, but sort of by plea because they were afraid of them. And at the end of the story today, these guys are going to get beaten as a group, and they're going to get beaten into rejoicing. So I'm going to title this, Beating the 12 into Joy. So because of the activities of the disciples and the power of God that's being displayed in them, people are afraid of them. The captain of the guard is afraid. The council is afraid. It looks like the high priest is afraid. They've been telling them not to teach in his name. And they're mad at him for saying that his blood is, they're responsible for Jesus' blood, and they're pretty mad. So let me read this. Verse 33. When they heard this, they were enraged and wanted to kill them. So this is where we start the story today. Enragement and killingness. Verse 34. But a Pharisee in the council named Gamaliel, a teacher of the law, held in honor by all the people, stood up and gave orders to put the men outside for a little while. And he said, Men of Israel, take care what you do with these men. Before these days, Theudas rose up, claiming to be somebody, and a number of men, about 400, joined him. He was killed, and all who followed him were dispersed and came to nothing. So that's example number one. Example number two, after Judas the Galilean rose up in the days of the census, not the betraying Judas, and drew away some of the people after him, he too perished, and all who followed him were scattered. So in the present case, I tell you, this is Gamaliel talking to the council, keep away from these men and let them alone. For if this plan is or this undertaking is of man, it will fail. But if it is of God, you will not be able to overthrow them. You might even be found, here's the scary thing, opposing God. So they took his advice, which is probably the most amazing part of the whole story. Verse 40. And when they had called in the apostles, they beat them and charged them not to speak in the name of Jesus, and let them go. Then they left the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer dishonor for the name. And every day in the temple and from house to house, they did not cease teaching and preaching Jesus as the Christ. So a couple of points come to mind here today. First of all, take care what you do about these men. He seems to say, Gamaliel, the wise guy, take care what you do about these men. Take care what you do about God. Let's be wise in this. Let's be wise in the way that we handle this. A call to wisdom. What a great thing. Then we talk about two guys who are lost to history, as far as I know, Theudas and Judas. They have both had bands of men, and after their deaths, they were scattered. And then we find advice from this wise man, a man that's already honored, Gamaliel. I wonder if he becomes a believer. I don't think we have any data on that. He says in verse 38, so I tell you in the present case, first he separates the combatants, which is very wise, and then he talks to them rationally. Keep away from these men and let them alone. For if this plan or this undertaking it is a man, it will fail. So remember, these guys were going to attack them. They were going like forward to attack the disciples. And he says, whoa, withdraw, time out, back up, leave them alone. And the amazing thing is they took his advice, which is fantastic. And obviously God can't be overthrown. And we see that reality here today. So this guy really did have wisdom. He says, let's live a considered life. Take care what you do. Be wise in how you handle the situation. So number one teaching point is let's live a considered life. Number two, let's use wise people following wise men and women. And think about who's the wisest person you know. You should be leaning into that person. And then think about a couple of knuckleheads, foolish people that you know, And you kind of should be moving away from those kind of people. All right, so then what he's doing is saying, look for the movements of God and join him in those movements. Don't oppose God. Don't be the one that's found opposing God. On the other side is join in a way of thinking, in a way of relationships, join leaders that are wise and trying to honor the Lord. Do the right thing with your money. Do the right thing with your service. As you become believers, all these things have to change. And then verse 40, so they changed their minds. They called in the disciples. And this is my favorite part, is they beat them. So the 12 apostles, they beat them and charged them not to speak in the name of Jesus. And I had a great compassion again. Remember Matthais, who just joined the apostles like 5 minutes ago. He's already been, number one, arrested, spent overnight in the jail. And then now we find he busts out of jail. And now this example, he's now being detained strongly. And then we find out here, this is like on day 1 or 5 or something of his apostleship. Now he gets beaten. So one might think, he's going to say like, well, I'm going to give up this thing. But no, how does he and the other 11 respond? They rejoice. And here's what they rejoice at, that they are counted worthy, that their behaviors, their activities, their words have been found to align with Jesus, that other people are recognizing it, that they're with Jesus. And then they get sort of treated as if Jesus gets treated, which was some suffering and dishonoring him, dishonor for the name. And I think in a little while here in Acts, I hope they get to it soon here, these guys are going to be scattered and go across the world. But I think when they look back at this moment, this day, they're going to say, hey, that was a great day. Remember that day when we got beaten? Remember that day when we were together as 12? I had a great day when somebody saw that I'm with him. So the charge today is do something, be something, and try to let somebody see that you're aligned with Jesus, or speaking about Jesus, or doing the actions of Jesus. And maybe someone could accuse you of it, and you can say, I was counted worthy to suffer dishonor for the name. Have a great day with Jesus today. I'll see you tomorrow, I hope.